All right, we are live. Welcome to Geeks Worldwide presents Press N Key. I am, of course, your host, Michael Schluger, and this is episode 293 that we're up to? 292.
292.
That's right. We have a fantastic show for you, lots of stuff to discuss. But of course, let me introduce the crew. We have Josh Irwin.
Howdy.
Good to have you, my friend.
Good to be here.
And Connor Howard.
How's it going? Good to be here again.
That's right.
Always a pleasure.
Whatchamacallit, Jay is apparently stuck at work, and Chris is off doing Chris things. So I hope to get him back on the show soon. If you've been watching, we've started to do some things a little different. So we're going to open up with one what the fuck story for you, and we are going to conclude with one what the fuck story for you. So our first what the fuck story has to do with Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed obviously is no stranger to anybody. I think at this point, everyone has heard of the video game series, and obviously the movie came out, super popular now. But it has a history of having some really weird partnerships when the games launch. The one that still sticks out in my mind is they had the partnership with like Gillette back when Unity came out, and if you bought like Gillette shaving cream or some sort of razors, you would get like stuff. It would like give you like little DLC bonus, like a weapon or some other stuff in the game, and I always thought that was super odd. But Ubisoft has outdone themselves this time. They are releasing a limited edition. When I say limited, I mean, was it 15 pairs? 16 exclusive pairs of Assassin's Creed themed footwear or sneakers in this case. And my God, they are ugly.
I mean, they're pretty weird looking. They've got like that really high top sole. You know, it's like the sole takes up half the shoe almost. You see how it like curves around the underside. Like looking at the pictures of it, it's just like that's way too much sole or way too much rubber or whatever.
You can never have too much sole, baby.
Maybe that's what they're trying to say. Yeah, and it's like made of this weird canvas material too. It looks like this really odd texture. It's definitely different. It's kind of like going for that high fashion look. It seems to me.
I mean, if this is high fashion, then I don't know.
The high fashion's weird shit. You never like the stuff that comes out of like runway shows. It's weird.
If you look at their video, you'll see that these are like hand painted, and this is a partnership with supposedly a very famous sneaker designer named Dominic Lohman. I'm not familiar with this guy, but maybe some sneakerheads can hit us up and let us know how famous this dude is or whatever. But to me, the shoes look really, really ugly, and this game is set obviously in Egypt, and I have no idea like what this has to do with Egypt. It looks like the guy tried painting some hieroglyphics on the sides of the sneakers, but like honestly, I think if you wore these anywhere, you would just be like laughed at, essentially.
They should have just gone with like leather strap sandals or something.
I think that's what they were trying to sort of allude to with some of the design elements on this thing. Like they're trying to make it look like, hey, this might be something that some Egyptians who are really ahead of their time might have worn. You know, it's like that's what they're trying to suggest with it. It just looks like. I agree. It is pretty dumb looking, and it's just funny to think like, why shoes? Of all the things
Wouldn't it be funny? Wouldn't it be funny if they go to like they go to the Abstergo scene and like your guy on the Animus is wearing these sneakers?
That'd be perfect. I think that would really bring it full circle. Like, I'd be surprised if they don't do that now.
Bring it all together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like, I mean, I just imagine like a really nerdy guy like winning the contest, or it doesn't even have to be a nerdy guy. I just like some dude wins the contest, wears these outside, and he's like, "No, guys, these are cool. Like, these are Assassin's Creed. They're so cool." And everyone just.
My philosophy is if it's cool to you, that's fine. But it's just such a weird thing to promote a game with. Assassin's Creed, I think you're right though. Like you said earlier, like they've done some weird promotions. Like when I bought I pre-ordered something a long time ago through GameStop, and they gave me a pint glass promoting Assassin's Creed Revelations, the third Ezio game. So like a pint glass that I just drink beer and stuff out of. Like I mean, that's fine. I like having pint glasses, but why a pint glass? It just never made any sense to me. Stuff like that.
Very weird. So if you are, for some godforsaken reason, interested in these shoes and you want these shoes, you have to basically be paying attention to their social media accounts, and they will announce the contest and how to win the shoes. But why would you possibly want these? But yeah, in case you do. But moving on, let's talk about the real news, the regular news for the week. We're going to start off by talking about some 16-bit stuff. The first story has to do with something called the Super NT. So if you're not familiar with this company, and the Super NT's name of the product, not the company. The name of the company is, I think, Analog. I believe that's the name of the company. A couple of months ago, maybe even a year ago now, they came out with this NES console. And I think they just called that one the Analog NT, and this thing was $550. And basically what they were promising you was a perfect NES recreation experience that upscaled to 1080p. And the way they did it at the time was they had the actual NES chipboards inside the console. That's how they were able to replicate the emulation perfectly, because it was the original hardware. This is now the SNES version of the same thing, except it is not using the original hardware. It's using something called
FPGA.
It had like a weird name to it.
FPGA.
Yes.
The FPGA thing?
Yes, yes. An Altera Cyclone V FPGA. I have no idea what this is, but apparently it's a particular kind of circuit board that...
Can you hear me at all?
I can hear you. You're a little quiet, though.
Oh, okay. I don't know what's up there. So FPGA is basically a type of chip that you can all of the like a circuit board would have, and it lets you perfectly emulate.
Is Josh having trouble?
Any kind of integrated chip.
Yeah, he's Josh. You're just like a little bit choppy, but I understood what you said, but you are a little choppy.
I didn't hear him at all. What did he say?
He basically said that it's a special kind of chip it's a special kind of circuit board or chip that can emulate things perfectly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Pretty neat. Good technology for this thing to have, I guess.
I guess.
Yeah.
It's going to cost you for the pleasure.
Of course.
Yeah, it's going to cost you $190.
And that's not terrible. That's a decent price for... It sounds like what they're packing into this thing and what it can do. I don't know. I mean, that's not as bad as what was the Super. What was the new thing that just came out? Like the that NES thing. I think it was like $500.
That
like
was
that.
the
The
NES
analog.
one was 500. That
Yeah.
came out a couple of months ago, if not a year ago.
Right.
I honestly think they're both a ridiculous price, and
Yeah.
so this one basically can be sort of hacked or modded to allow for other games to play on the hardware. Obviously, the other one couldn't do that because it was literally the exact same hardware as the Nintendo consoles.
Mhm.
They literally like just bought old and used Nintendos, ripped them open, took out the hardware, cleaned it, and put it into their, into a new shell.
Right.
This is different. But even so, I mean, why would you get this when you could just, for $80, for example, pick up SNES Classic or SNES Mini, depending on,
Right.
Yeah,
Maybe some people see the technology in it as the investment. They think there's potential here. Like maybe they think if they jailbreak it and make it compatible with all these other, platforms and games, that makes it so they get their money's worth. Maybe that's their thinking. I'm not quite there either, but I'm more with you. It's like still not worth it to me, but maybe that's what people are thinking. I don't know.
yeah. There are people that are really into streaming and video quality, and these apparently do it better than the NES Classic. Then you can get emulated, all of that stuff. So they're for high end. They're for people who are very concerned about high end video quality.
Right. So, I mean, what I had read was, and I use the quotation marks here, perfect emulation of everything, right? But in my experience, for the most part, anytime I used an emulator to play a game, I never really felt like something was off. Now, obviously, I played way more games on ROMs than I actually had back in the day. So maybe something was off by half a second or something, but it was never off in such a way that the game became unplayable or something like that. How do you guys feel about that? How important is it to be perfect emulation versus really good?
I personally can't really tell the difference between really good and perfect to begin with, so I don't have very high standards. I mean, it's nice to hear that this thing is capable of such crisp renderings, but I don't necessarily need that as a consumer. It's nice to know that it has the firepower to do that, but I'm like that's not a priority for me.
Yeah, it's not a priority for me either. I think it's neat. It's definitely a boutique product for those people that care about video signal quality. But for the average consumer, they might as well get a SNES Classic or something.
Yeah, I completely agree with you guys. The only and just sort of like echo a little bit of what Connor said. If you framed it as a device that plays like 20 different, if it emulates perfectly 20 different systems or something like that, then yeah, I could see it. But for me, I just don't see the, it doesn't do anything for me. I can just emulate it on my computer without any kind of an issue. So
Right.
But if you're interested, now is the time to go. They will likely sell out. They usually sell these in limited numbers. This one in particular, there's certainly going to be more availability since this is a readily available circuit board, opposed to original hardware. So be more plentiful. But I'm not sure how many of these they're making. These guys, I think, like to make things exclusive just to, for the sake of exclusivity, to sell you to raise the price a little bit on you.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, their analog NT was like a machined aluminum case and all that stuff. This one actually has a plastic case, so it's a lot easier to manufacture. So there will probably be a lot more of them.
Right, and you can pre-order them now for the low price of $189.99. So enjoy. The next 16-bit story we have for you, and the last one for today. This one's really interesting to me, actually. So, for those of you that had a Sega Genesis back in the day, a game came out for, I believe it was both Sega Genesis and Sega Saturn, although I think it got a little more prominence on Sega Saturn, called Sonic 3D Blast. Did you guys ever play this one as a kid? I actually didn't myself, but
I could never keep up with how many Sonic games there were.
I rented it when it came out.
it wasn't terrible.
It was not a good game. It's kind of, if I remember correctly, it's kind of a 3/4 overhead perspective.
Yes,
on a kind of a grid. You can kind of go up, down, left, and right.
correct.
But it did not. It never controlled very well, and it wasn't a good game. There was nothing fun about it.
Well, I have some good news for you, Josh. The original developer of Sonic 3D Blast has come forward and basically said that he is going to create like a semi-official patch, as it were, for the game that's going to fix it.
Hooray!
That's right. That's
I'm
right.
so excited.
It only 21 years. It only took 21 years for this thing to come out. And I mean, for those that put up with the wait, I mean, he's adding better movement and handling. He's making the gameplay less frustrating. He's adding Supersonic into the game because he was not there before, as well as a level editor, so you can now make your own levels. Woo! Oh my god! And I think he's adding a couple of, maybe one or two new enemies that were like in the original development but taken out at the end. The bad news is he's not doing this full time. He's doing this in his spare time. The guy's name is, in case you want to look him up, is John Burton. He's a well-known developer, and basically in his spare time, he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to do this for funsies." What do you guys think? Cool or a little bit late to the party?
I mean, it's always nice to see someone really dedicating themselves to a passion project like this, especially one they were involved with from the beginning and they're kind of coming back and adding to it. I mean, that's really cool for, like, I don't know how big the fan base of this particular game is, but however many of them, all 2 or 3 of them, I don't know however many, but it's really cool for them to have this update to an old game, you know, come out of the blue, out of nowhere. So that's pretty neat. I know that I personally feel like being a Sonic fan is kind of like being a Browns fan, Cleveland Browns fan, because like you have to get used to so much disappointment and letdown. Like, you know, they got so many garbage games thrown at them over the years that if one is updated to be a more complete and fulfilling package, hey, that's great for them. So that's cool. I mean, I'm not a Sonic fan. I haven't played a Sonic game in years, but it's neat, you know. Good to, you know. It's
a nice bit of news. I mean, the Sonic Mania has been getting really, really positive buzz and really, really positive reviews. So I feel like Sonic is, you know, if only a little bit, sort of gaining some new fans after years of disappointment upon disappointment. So I mean, this is nice.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see if this will start a trend, right? Because he's calling this the director's cut, as it were, of the game. And I wonder if other people will come forward with like, yeah, this game was kind of shitty when it first came out, but I'm going to fix it now. So
that would be cool if that becomes more common, I think. Because like there's remasters, but those are usually by the publishers wanting more money.
Right.
And director's cuts would be more like the creative people kind of coming back and, you know, completing their vision, which would be cool.
Yeah, how crazy would it be if they made like a good game now?
I mean, you know, like he's had 21 years of feedback, so can't be that hard at this point.
Oh, easy peasy.
I mean, I'm pretty sure he has a pretty good idea. They're like, "Oh, you made Sonic 3D Blast? It sucked. Here's why." I'm sure he's had that happen to him like a few times. At least.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, once or twice. 4 or 5 times. Yeah, a lot.
That's kind of interesting. Let's see what we got next. Yes. Humble Bundle. So this made a few waves in the gaming world. Just this past week, Humble Bundle announced that it was being purchased by IGN. So Humble Bundle, if you've been living under a rock, is basically a website that sells bundled video games, and the majority of the profits go to charity. Although they do have you get to set how much money you want to pay. So the bundles are, there's certain games which are $1, and then if you pay more than a certain amount, you get additional games, and you get to decide how to split your payment via charities of your choice. And Josh disconnected. And whatchamacallit, I've used this site a lot. Have you used this site a lot, Connor?
Oh yeah, several times. I've gotten some really good bundles from it. I've always really admired the business model of it. I mean, I don't even know if you could call it a business model because, it's obviously a very charity focused thing, but I've always liked, that mission of theirs. I think most recently, I did one recently, but one that I remember pretty well was when they had a bundle for Battleborn. You remember Battleborn? Because no one else does. It was like a $15 bundle to get everything, and I did it, and I got like Mafia 2 out of it. I got the Darkness games out of it. I got Battleborn. I got a few other bits and pieces that were really nice to have. So it's like such a great value, and that goes towards such a great cause. Side note, Battleborn was way more fun than I expected it to be. I think it's really underrated. Personally,
it's dead.
Just
doesn't
thrown.
matter.
I know it's dead. I can't find a game to save my life anymore. But
it doesn't exist.
It's like when I was playing it, when there were still people on it, it was really fun. Just throwing that out there. If it makes it come back, great. But no. Bottom line, Humble Bundle is pretty cool. But it's crazy that this is happening. But at the same time, it's not that crazy because these are two pretty big names in the industry, IGN and Humble Bundle. I mean, IGN has its hands in everything. They've been a reviewer for a long time. They've been involved with Congregate, which is like an online flash game platform that was pretty popular a while back. I don't know if you remember Congregate, but like they've just done a lot of ventures, and this kind of makes sense for them. Hopefully, they just sort of keep what's good about the Humble Bundle intact as they go forward. That's my wish. Otherwise, I don't really have a problem with it as long as it works out best, for the better for both parties.
Well, so the interesting thing is obviously like how much they expanded, right? Because originally it was set up by indies, by and for indies, as it were. But it expanded so much. They started selling books. They started selling software. They started selling mobile games. I've purchased some mobile games from them as well. And then they opened up they have a monthly subscription thing where you can get like some pretty good games for cheap if you subscribe. Like, it's a subscription based thing. So you pay something like $60 for 3 or 4 months, and they just give you different games every month. They have a store where you can support indies. And my understanding is it's pretty favorable to developers. Like developers get a bigger piece of the pie in this particular store.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it is very interesting that that IGN bought them. Does it worry you? Do you feel like IGN said, like, and this is a direct quote, they said, the idea is just to feed them with resources they need to keep doing what they're doing. They want them to, quote, stick to the fundamentals in the short term. We don't want to disrupt anything we're doing right already, because the shared vision and overlap of our customer bases, there's going to be a lot of opportunities. But are you worried about this deal? Do what's your worst case scenario here?
I guess one thing my mind goes to as a worst case scenario is that, when I think of IGN, I think they're pretty tied to, not super closely, but they have connections to like the AAA gaming industry. They are involved with the higher profile releases, previewing and reviewing those. So I guess I'm a little worried that they might start bleeding over into the Humble Bundle's indie space with what they do with like more high profile AAA releases. I'm worried that
But I mean, there's been a bunch of AAA.
I guess I'm worried about it going like into overdrive and really drowning out the indie spotlight sort of feel of Humble Bundle. Like I'm worried that will be put on the back shelf a little more than it already has. I don't really have any reason to think that is what's going to happen, but that's what I'm a little worried about. But I think one other thing is just I'm curious like what IGN gets out of it. Like why own Humble Bundle? What's the angle for them? What's the advantage for them? I mean, I know there's like tons of cross promotional potential there, like just the merging the brands and all that stuff. But I mean, it's not like going to be a cash cow for them necessarily if they keep the charity model. So why do it other than like as a PR move or just as a brand expansion move? I'm just like not really seeing that part.
They get to of acquiring the company the company makes.
One more time, Josh.
So they get to write off the expense of acquiring the company, and then they get to write off the.
Your connection is terrible. So sorry. Like really, really atrocious. Something about writing off the expenses of a company.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't quite catch.
Maybe like a tax thing, I guess. I don't know, maybe. I can't
the thing to me is it kind of, in my opinion, creates a bit of a conflict of interest, obviously, if you're writing about games and also own a website that sells games. That creates a bit of a conflict of interest there. That's
been the case with Game Informer for as long as it's existed, though, basically, because I don't know if you're aware of this, but Game Informer is owned. The magazine, the online print magazine of Game Informer, it's owned by GameStop or GameStop Incorporated. So the retail chain, the retail chain that's involved in selling these video games, owns and publishes a magazine promoting said video games. So I don't know if that's just the nature of the beast that we're just going to have to get used to. But I mean, you have a point. I definitely take that point where it's like it could get kind of shady with, hey, here's an indie game that you really should consider playing, which we also, conveniently just so happen to have a special on in the Humble Bundle or whatever. So there's that.
Looks like Josh is saying he's going to drop out because his connection is shitty, which really sucks.
Yeah, I've been there, Josh. No shame. sorry to see you go, but it happens. It literally happened to me like 2 weeks ago, so I can't judge. I've been there.
Indeed. All right, readjust. We will be right back in 5 minutes. We're going to make some quick adjustments since Josh is not going to be able to do the podcast with us. So bear with us.
Stay tuned. See you soon.
All right, we are back. So sorry about that technical difficulty. It sucks to lose someone. It sucks to lose a guest host. He's not even a guest host. I shouldn't even say that. He's not a guest anymore. It sucks to lose a co-host.
That it does.
But the show must go on, so we are going to continue to bang this out. The next story has to do with Activision, which, you know what? I honestly feel like Activision and EA are in like some secret competition to like decide which company is more evil and like which company is more terrible.
Yeah, it's been a rivalry between those two for years and years.
Like it just goes back and forth.
Yeah.
You know, like EA's like, oh yeah, Activision, well, we're gonna make a shitty Mass Effect game. Activision's like firing back, like, oh yeah, EA, well, we're gonna copyright a matchmaking system that encourages microtransactions. Checkmate.
Oh man, they're all just, I mean, everyone's just trying to make money, dude. And like greed is such a motivator that it looks like evil from the outside. It's hard to watch though. It's like, we're gonna make Origin. Yeah, well, we're gonna do yearly Call of Duty games. It's like you're right. It's just like they're just trying to one up each other.
It feels like it really. Yeah. But I wasn't making the last part up. That's actually the story. Activision patented a matchmaking system that encourages players to buy microtransactions. Like, I don't see how EA is going to top this one. This is a really evil, horrendous thing to do.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. It's like I'm still trying to get caught up on like how exactly it works. Was it something to do with like matching low skill players with or like throwing off the skill levels or something like that?
So it works in a couple of different ways, which is what makes it so insidious. It doesn't work in a very, in just one way. So this was filed, by the way, on October. It was granted October 17th. So it was granted yesterday. And I think it was filed like 2 or 3 days prior to that. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, 2015. Sorry. The patent was filed in 2015, but it was granted yesterday. October 17th of 2017. That's why we're talking about it, because they got permission.
Okay.
So how does this thing work? So I'm going to give you 2 examples, and this is directly from their patent filing. For example, microtransaction engine 128 may identify a junior player to match with a marquee player based on the player profile of the junior player. In the particular example, the junior player may wish to become an expert sniper in the game. Microtransaction Agent 128 may match the junior player with the player that is a highly skilled sniper in the game. In this manner, the junior player may be encouraged to make game-related purchases, such as a rifle or other items used by the highly skilled sniper. So translation is, it might detect that you have an interest in sniping. It will then match you with a player that has like really elite sniper stuff, and then you'll be like, shit, I want that really cool, Scope-O-Matic 3000, but I don't want to grind for it, so here's $20, Activision, to give me the Scope-O-Matic 3000 right away.
Wow.
That is evil. That's like Lex Luthor level evil.
That's mad genius devious. Like that's so underhanded. I mean, I almost have to admire the scumminess of it, like the skullduggery of it. That's crazy, man.
Right? There's by the way, that's one example. Another example, if the player purchased a particular weapon, the microtransaction engine may match the player in a gameplay session in which the particular weapon is highly effective. So now what the game is saying is, oh, you bought a shotgun? All right. Here's a level where shotguns are like the best weapon to have. So you get a positive feedback loop, where you bought the gun and it was super duper useful. So you're like, oh shit, I need to buy more guns.
Dude.
Again.
That's insane, man.
super shitty thing to do.
Yeah, like not only is that kind of capitalism run amok on, like that's one angle of it. It's like, you know, selling you shit constantly, but the other angle is like it's just kind of upheaving the entire structure of how online games are like managed. I thought normally when you try and join a game, it kind of like just goes by, you know, your location, your connection type, and all that stuff, and like what kind of mode you want to play, and then what games are ongoing, and it puts you where, you know, you want to go. But it sounds like they want to just put it in a more direction, like it's more tailored to what you own and what they want you to buy. Like that's a complete shift in how matchmaking works.
Well, there's still everything that you mentioned is still being analyzed. They're still looking at your latency, and but now they're also putting in your weapon preference. Now they're taking a look at like all these other factors that they hope to use to influence you into spending more money.
It just sounds like it really complicates it, you know? That's crazy.
It's super messed up, and I think from a developer standpoint, I mean, it messes with the balance of your game. Can you imagine a game of Destiny? Because obviously the system hasn't been implemented in any game yet, but I could absolutely see it being implemented in a game like Destiny in the future.
Yeah, especially talking about Activision, like, you know, the Battlefield games, the, you know, Call of Duty, like it sounds almost tailor-made for games like that. So that's definitely where I could see it happening. That's really worrying. Yeah.
You know what EA is thinking right now? EA is thinking like, fuck, they beat us to the punch.
Oh, yeah. We're going to have to really pull out all the stops this time. Like, how are we going to top this one? They're going to have to, like, block your screen with a targeted advertisement for in-game guns or some shit like that. EA is going to have to really go all out. EA is
basically, I think my dog needs to be walked. So.
Oh yeah.
Can you hold it? Can you hold it for like another 10, 15 minutes for me, please?
This is important, buddy.
Yeah, that's right. Trying to get this done. Bless you. Yeah. EA is going to have to, like, I don't know, create a game so insanely fun. Actually, they've got that game coming out. What's Anthem? Anthem.
Yeah, that's true.
I think what they're going to do with Anthem is it's going to be amazing. They're going to give it away for free, but then every like 20 minutes you have to watch 10 ads to continue. That's the answer I see for this.
Oh my god, it's sad how much I can believe that. Like it's sad how I can see that as possible. God damn. That's the YouTube model. It's free, but you know, watch an ad every now and then.
They'll give you a boost if you watch like 5 ads or answer a survey or something. I swear.
That's how so many mobile games work already.
Yeah.
So
it's coming.
Matter of time.
So yeah, this is pretty terrible. I'm gonna try really hard personally to not support Activision, but it makes me think of something that Jay said the other week that I'm going to bring up in the next story because it has to do with more shittiness. Because, you know, you could argue almost that EA has answered the call already of Activision this week because they closed down Visceral Games.
That's right.
Visceral is gone. Now, you know, that name might not mean anything to you, but you know their games. Have you ever played something called Dead Space?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was Visceral. All of them.
Yeah.
All 3 Dead Space games were Visceral.
Didn't they also did some like Lord of the Rings games? I'm thinking like the licensed ones on PS2 back in the day.
Ones on PS2, the ones that were like action adventure games.
Those were really good. Those were like some of the best licensed movie games I've ever played in my life. They were great.
If it was back in like the PlayStation 2 days, because they would play the scene from the movie and then they would like seamlessly transition,
like shift into game graphics. Hell yeah, dude!
At the time, it was like whoa.
That was crazy. Boss. I loved those games.
Yeah, that was Visceral. That was them. So they are gone. And Would you like to do us the honors and read the statement by EA as to why they were closed?
I feel like I feel like I need to we should be playing like taps right now or something like that. Where is it? All right, yeah, shuts down Visceral. There's one statement from what's his name, Patrick Soderlund, said something along the lines of, well, yeah, we're talking like specifically this is framed around an unnamed Star Wars game that Visceral was working on, but Visceral was working on a unannounced, unnamed Star Wars project that was apparently going to be story-driven, linear.
Right, a story-driven linear game a la Uncharted. Right.
And so Soderlund says regarding this game specifically and generally Visceral Studios, quote, "It has become clear that to deliver an experience that players will want to come back to and enjoy for a long time to come, we needed to pivot the design," and whatever the hell that means. He continues, quote, "We are shifting the game to be a broader experience that allows for more variety and player agency."
Would you like me to translate that for you?
Yes,
Connor?
yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay, so what he's saying is we want your money. And we're going to stuff this thing so full of microtransactions that you're going to have to pay. You're going to have to buy this game 3 times over to squeeze any fun out of it.
We're going to turn it into the Destiny of Star Wars.
Exactly.
It hurts my soul to read that and hear that. But no, it's I've noticed for a while. It's been kind of the reality for a while that publishers, you know, and on the business end of making games, they have almost a disdain for single player story driven games because they don't see dollar signs when they think of those games. They think, oh, that's a one and done. People are going to buy that once and be done with it. Unless, you know, it's like Shadow of War and you can fill it with loot boxes. That's becoming norm. But like,
well, that's the thing, right? And I'll let you finish the thought.
It's just like, you know, I've known that for a while, kind of back in my mind. I think a lot of people have, but to hear someone kind of come out and, you know, they run it through a bullshit filter, but that's basically what they're saying. They're saying there's no money in it. So we're gonna make it multiplayer or some shit like that. I don't know.
Well, I think what's happening is they're doing the math and they're saying, well, we could make 100 million. I'm pulling this number out of my ass, by the way.
Sure, right.
For the record, but we could make, let's say, $50 million on this game, or we could put in microtransactions and make $150 million.
What are we gonna do? That's a tough call right there. Hard decision.
So the thing is, and I think this is going to be sort of a bit of a running debate in the gaming world for the next couple of weeks, but there are extraordinarily successful single player games that have come out of late. Obviously, the biggest one I think that jumps to everyone's mind is Breath of the Wild. Single player, story driven game. Yeah, there's a little bit of DLC for it, but for the most part, this is a one and done game. None of the DLC is critical.
Yeah, I mean, The Witcher 3 was one of the most successful role playing games of the last couple of years. It has expansions, but it's a smash hit. You've got the Uncharted games, stuff like that.
Uncharted, Nier Automata, Horizon Zero Dawn. Again, it has one expansion coming out, but these games are massively successful. But on the flip side of it, right, you have a game like Grand Theft Auto 5, which not only was it a massive critically acclaimed success, but the microtransactions in GTA Online single-handedly led Take-Two to have a positive year. Like, they haven't released any new games, but they're making bank because of those microtransactions.
They buttered their bread strictly on that game's microtransactions alone, and like GTA 5 is still selling for $60 now. Like, it's still that relevant of a game.
Well, I mean, I've seen it certainly dip for the Steam sales to be a little bit
occasionally
more.
Yeah, but like it's still like almost full price in most cases. It's crazy.
I'm pretty sure it's still near the top of the sales charts if you look at it. And that's the thing, though. There is a way to do it right, and there is a way to do it wrong.
Oh yeah,
And it's so much easier to do it wrong than it is to do it right.
it's more lucrative to do it wrong, for sure.
So that's my worry, because GTA 5 was amazing, not because the microtransactions. The single player was amazing and untouched and left alone. What happens in the online stuff doesn't really affect the single player campaign at all.
True.
So I'm worried about it, Connor. I feel like certainly single player games aren't going anywhere. Like God of War is going to be launching next year, and it's going to be huge.
Yeah. Right.
It's going to sell like gangbusters. But do you feel like we're seeing the beginning of the end?
I don't think it's quite that bad yet. I think we're seeing, I hate to borrow Mr. Soderlund's words, but that's like the shifting realities of the market. We're seeing like that's where the money is right now. But I think enough creative people, I think enough developers are acknowledging that there's definitely still a demand for these story-driven single-player experiences that we're still getting.
Yeah, I'm gonna play devil's advocate for a second, because for every game that we listed as a huge success, there's games that haven't been as successful. Prey, Resident Evil 7, that's a pretty big title, didn't do so hot. Dishonored 2 didn't do so hot, and Deus Ex, which personally hurts me because that's an amazing game. Everyone should play it.
Yeah, Mankind Divided was solid. I liked it.
It's amazing, such a good game.
Yeah.
It didn't do well. It didn't commercially. Critically, it was like praised up and down, but commercially it just didn't resonate.
You're right. You're right. I take that, but at the same time, there have been so many just absolute blunderous multiplayer launches too. Like there's so many knockoff League of Legends,
oh sure,
MOBAs that are coming out. There's so many, undersold mediocre first-person shooter. Like the hero shooter genre blew the hell up after Overwatch. I mean, think about Lawbreakers. I mean, is anyone playing Lawbreakers right now? It's
no. I think we showed a story. Privately we shared a story that like concurrent player dropped to like less than 100 or something.
I saw that. Yeah. So it's just like people are losing money on all kinds of games. People are making money on all kinds of games. I think there needs to be a return to the understanding that you can make a good game no matter what kind of game it is. It's just up to us, the players and the consumers, to vote with our wallets, really, and show the industry what we actually want. And they'll continue giving it to us. So it's like, guys, if you want loot boxes to stop, don't fucking buy them. Like, don't buy them. Don't give them the money.
And that brings me back to what Jay said last week. And I think we're going to have to leave I'll give you a chance to rebuttal, but this is something Jay said the other week. He said the video game market doesn't give a shit about us. Like, we hardcore gamers, we serious gamers, or whatever term you want to give us, the guys that are like playing everything that comes out, they don't care about us, because we'll totally walk away and be like, no, we're not going to give you our money. But as long as there's like 10 whales or 100 whales out there, as long as a casual player throws them $5-10, they will keep doing this shit over and over and over again.
That's probably true. I can't really think of anyone I personally know who spends a significant amount of money on DLC like that, but they do exist. They are out there. So
there's way more of them than there are of us.
Unfortunate, but yeah, that's probably the case.
Yeah. All right, so that is all our regular stories for the week, and I'd love to hear feedback from you guys about your take on this whole debate. Make sure you tweet at us at Pack Podcast, and I think that leaves us with the last what the fuck story of the week. This one is pretty amazing. If you live in Taiwan and you're a fan of Gran Turismo, boy, is there a deal for you. You can get a PlayStation 4, PlayStation 4 Pro, I should say, the VR headset, Gran Turismo Sports, $1 million credit in the game. I don't know how much or how low that is in the game currency.
Yeah.
A Sony Bravia 4K television, a racing wheel, a racing seat, and a brand new car with custom GT decals. That's right, a brand new car, a Mazda MX-5 for the low price of $46,300 USD.
Wow.
Now that is apparently not really a good deal. I read that if you put all the things separately, you have enough money to get yourself like a second Bravia television.
Really?
Anyway.
That's surprising to me because like
Yes.
listing those things off and then giving me that price as the bundle tag, it's like I immediately think to myself, that's not bad. It's a good deal. I mean, I when I think
right,
when I think the words new car, I think, oh, it's got to be at least 40 grand. And then, all that other shit you threw in there, it's like, sure, I get that. But like, if you actually shop around and do the math, it's probably a ripoff. But
that's what I was told. Yeah.
that's like translated or, exchanged 46,000 US dollars from like over $1 million Taiwanese currency in a Taiwanese currency, I'm guessing.
Right.
Yeah, it's like 1.3, almost 1.4 million dollars in Taiwanese currency.
Right.
So that's that's a fuckload of money. But I think like that's not too bad though. Like all that stuff, a brand new Mazda MX-5. I mean, that's like what would you pay for that in the States? Like
I have no idea.
Off the lot
about cars.
I honestly think 40 grand for a brand new Mazda MX-5 isn't that bad. Well, like if I'm really thinking about it,
you move to Taiwan where it's cheaper to own cars. I don't know.
I guess maybe that's pretty crazy. I think this to me kind of brings me back to our conversation just now about. I think Jay mentioned whales, like the people who, there's minnows, like the people who spend like $5-10 on a game here and there, like on DLC here and there, and the whales. I think that's a term for people who their entire life is this particular game, and they spend every cent they have on adding on to it. If there's a whale who plays GTA, like Gran Turismo, as like that's their they don't have a job or they don't have a social life or whatever. Like this, I mean, these are the kinds of people that keep these things happening. Like that's the kind of person this bundle is marketed to.
I can't imagine there's too many people that are gonna.
No, there's enough though. There's like a few. There's a handful, and I guess that's enough.
Guess that's enough.
I assume so.
Yeah.
It's weird though.
Fortunately, that is all the stories we have for you this week. I need to go walk this dog before he gets even grumpier.
Ruins your security deposit.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. Yeah. Until next time, I have been your host, Michael Schluger.
And I've been Connor Howard. Thanks for tuning in.
Push a lot of buttons for us. No, let me do that.
Press some keys, you mean?
Yes. Have a great week of gaming. Push a lot of keys for us. Make sure you tweet at us at Pack Podcast. Hit like, hit subscribe, and we will see you next time.